So in our last session for the process chain monitoring, we learned about how to handle failures when happened at info package level. So all kind of possible info package failures we checked in our last session. Okay. Now in this session, we are going to discuss about DTP failures. So at what cases DTP may fail and how to handle these failures and what are the other extra functionalities we can do here. Everything we will discuss in this session. Okay, and followed by how to do process chain monitoring and where to important few important things also we will discuss in this session. So first one topic is DTP failures. So in production system, when a DTP may fail in a process chain or in a regular process chain. So the first reason is, for example, if any DTP failure you see on your system, generally what we will do, we will go to the display message and we will identify what was the reason behind the failure. Okay, but since we don't have any live scenario here, I am telling the generic scenarios. Okay, if a DTP is failing without showing any proper reason, then what may be the reason is there are few things are there. When transports moved from our development system to our production system, in those cases, what may happen is DTP may become inactive. Okay, so this is why this will happen. This will happen because when we are moving transports in most of the projects, what they will suggest is they don't wish to transport the DTPs. The reason behind, in production we may have it edit access for the DTP. Okay, in production system, actually production system is a display system. We doesn't have any edit access here. We cannot create any new things and we cannot change also any of the existing developments. But for process chains and for info packages, for DTPs, production system, we may have access to edit. Okay, because sometimes we may need of creating new info package for giving some selections, and sometimes we may need to exclude some of the some of the values from the source data to handle some scenarios. To these reasons, we may have edit access for the info package and DTPs. So if you do any changes to your DTP in production system as part of user requirement, then what will happen when you try to move the DTPs from development to production, whatever you did the changes on production system directly, those changes may become inactive, may become override. Okay, for example, as part of your project, there may be a requirement came to exclude document type YP. Okay, but this particular document type YP exclusion, you can do it at DTP level. If when anyone is doing this change in the production system, if they not synchronize these changes with the development and test environment, and later any changes moving from development to production, they may override this DTP selections. Okay, for this reason, most of the companies, most of the clients, not most of the, at least few of the clients, they won't allow, they won't not client, like as part of design things, we don't move the DTPs to the production system. That's the reason when any TRs move to production system, in general, few of the DTPs will get inactive, and due to this inactive DTP also, chains may failure. Okay, so why I explained this much means when I said DTP becomes inactive means you must know the reason behind why it may become inactive. Due to transports is the first reason for the inactiveness. So this so when a DTP got failed, first you need to go to RS7 and check whether DTP was active state or not. You need to check whether the DTP was in active state or not. If it is in active state, then we will further identify what was the issue. But the primary check what you need to do is when any process chain got failed, you need to go to the corresponding DTP, corresponding right click and display message. I'm trying to identify one failure here. Let me check what is this failure here. Process monitor. You see, for example, this DTP got failed. In production, if any DTP got failed, generally first thing we do is right click on it, go to displaying message. Okay, na? In the display message, we get to know what is the reason behind this failure. So if the reason is too straightforward, then we can do corresponding actions and we can correct the issue. Okay, for example, the next my next topic here is a DTP may fail due to the locking issue. You see, exception became request locked. Okay, so previous request has status read. So what is it means? What it means is a DTP which was failed yesterday. Okay, if I go to admin target, why admin target came here? Yes. One second. This is a Jira cost center. So I'm going to /rs7. I'm going to my info object Jira cost center. Okay. So this is what kind of DTP Jira 1 hierarchy, some DTP. I think this is hierarchy request. Yeah, hierarchy request. Then in that case, yeah, that's why we don't have this one. Go to process monitor. Okay. How to check this one? 1 second. Right click on it, go to process, double click on it, go to monitor and go to filter, free date. When this was failed, 2022-04. So let's give from January to this month. Let's give January month. 01/01/2022. Let's give this date range. And if I say here, you see, every request was a failure request. Okay. So what is the reason behind it? In simple, like it's difficult to handle here. For example, there is a DTP. Okay. And for example, today's date is, April 20. Okay. On April 20th, this DTP got failed. Okay. If you corrected this DTP on the same day, then it is fine. If you are not able to correct this DTP by end of the day, what will happen? This DTP again will trigger on April 21st chain. So the next day chain also, this DTP will get to trigger. So in this case, what will happen? Because the last DTP was read, the new successful DTP, the next successor DTP also will be read, saying the message like this only. It will show the message as last request was failed, last time request status was read. Due to this, now I am not able to process further request. Okay, if I go to display message, you see it is telling previous request ID has status read. So in order to process current day's request ID, we need to first correct yesterday's request ID. Whenever we correct this DTP, we can able to execute the next upcoming DTP. So in this case also you may see this kind of error message, lock issue. Okay, request locked. Locked means till that this becomes read, this request will be locked. That's why not able to process the latest request ID. Okay, this is one of the good example for locking issues. And next, what kind of error message we may see? We may get due to memory allocation issue. Okay, here I cannot show that memory allocation.
Srinivas, for logging
Yes.
issue, what fix we need to do?
Yeah, in this case, for example, if we consider this case only, first of all, we need to correct our old request where we have this red initially. We need to go to the place where it initially was failed.
Okay.
So let me check. Out of it, you see here it is red, here it is. So from this request onwards, it is red. Okay, and let me go with this one also, 2021. All the requests are red here. You see, none of the place it is green. So first of all, initial request itself is red. So if we are able to correct this request, then we can upload the latest IDs. So why this request ID, initial request ID was filed? Error deriving hierarchy info object from the field KOSTL update terminated.
Okay.
So what is this error message? So there is something problem while deriving this hierarchy.
Okay.
So whenever we are loading data from hierarchy, if it failed, most of the cases, delete this request first, delete the red request and try to reload the DTP, it will be successful. Okay. And if there is some problem like this, we need to check at source level. Okay.
Okay.
And if it still exists now, then we need to check a transformation level also.
Okay. Okay. I got it.
Okay.
We
So
we need to delete.
yes,
Suppose say the chain is failing for 10 days. We need to delete all 10 requests or only the first request.
we don't get 10 request IDs here. For example, if I go to process monitor,
Mhm.
point of the DTP,
Mhm.
yeah, let's go here. You see, there is no
No.
request ID created here to delete this. Right? Already, if you're able to correct the latest run will be successful automatically. Okay. Only initial request,
Mhm.
first request we need to delete.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So this is one kind of locking request for hierarchy. It not only hierarchy, if it is for normal data load also, for attributes or normal DTP also, if it failed, any one request failed or last request, then latest request will be failed automatically. First we need to delete the old request and rerun the DTP one more time. Okay. And so one more locking issue will happen. When it will happen is, so this is one kind of locking issue we are talking about. One more locking issue when we face is, for example, you have DSO1, okay, and you have DSO2, or else what we can say, let's say we have a sales flow, okay. In sales flow, you have two DSOs, DSO1 and DSO2. Hmm? And you have delivery flow also. No, a minute. Yeah, let's take this example only. We have delivery flow. Okay, here also you have DS4 5 and DS4 6. Okay, so when we are trying to load data into this DS4 6, we may write some lookups on DS4 2. Okay, lookup means we may try to read some data from this DS4 2 to perform some key figure values and all. Okay, but at that point of time, if there are some loads happening on DS42, then what will happen is, in general, system when trying to load data into it and activating it, system will create some locks on this table. Okay, so when this lock is there, then other particular data loads or providers cannot read data from these providers. Okay, so such kind of locks may happen. So in those cases also there is a chance of failure. I'm not saying 100% it will fail, chance of failure, because if anything reading happening on these providers, system will wait for some time. If the lock is there, system will have some waiting time. If it is beyond the waiting time, then your DTP will fail. Okay. And one more point is, for example, you are loading data from DS41 to DS42. Okay. And while performing data load from DS41 to DS42, if like for example, there is a DTP here and there is a DTP here. So currently data was loading into DTP, and at the same time you are trying to read data from you are trying to trigger this DTP. At this time also there is a chance of failure, because DS1 there is a data load happening. Okay, but not at data load time, but activation is important. Data load, like for example, when data writing into new table, system always free to read data from active table. So whatever currently I'm discussing, little bit complex, like a high level, because we must have clear understanding on this concept. So I will try to explain one more time. There are two DSOs, DS41 and DS42. On DS41, there is a data load happening, and when the data load performs, where it will write, data will be written to new table. In this particular point of time, if you run the DTP of DS42, system will work properly. Why? Because this DTP will read data from changelog table or active table. So there is no problem. But when you are trying to activate this DS41, at this time, there will be lock on the active table and changelog table. If you try to perform your DTP request, execute DTP2 in this point of time, activation time, then your DTP will fail, saying that there is a lock happening on DSO1. Okay, our system will wait for some time till this lock releases, and then it will process your data. So you need to understand how system behaves when we try to execute a DTP. Okay, in the same way, what will happen? In the same way, when generally while attribute change runs will be there, right? When attribute change run is running, what will happen? Attribute change run is a concept where attribute change run is a concept where it activates the master data and adjusts the rollups also, adjust the aggregates also. Okay. When this is happening, that time if you're trying to load data into cube and all, there is a chance of failure, because at that time, data was updating to aggregation cubes. Okay. So based upon the error message, most of the times we are able to understand what was the issue. Okay. So if locking issue is happening, we need to properly understand the error message and take the respective precautions there. Okay, that is one thing. So next point to explain here is, so second point what we learned so far is locking issue. So third point where we may face DTP failure is because of memory dump, memory allocation issue. It's in ST22 dump. Okay, so this is sometimes we definitely see this kind of error message in our process chains. So mainly allocation issue. If in the ST22 dump, if you see memory allocation issue kind of error message, it means what is happening. So you need to understand how DTP works. When you are trying to execute a DTP, what happens? System will allocate some sort of memory for your DTP execution. It means your logic execution. Okay, for example, your system is providing around 5 GB of memory for your logic execution, like for your data load. Whenever in this DTP execution, if the buffer memory crosses 5 GB, then this kind of dump will be resulted. Okay, this kind of dump will be given memory allocation issue. So our logic must use within the 5 GB memory only. If it is trying to use more than 5 GB, this kind of dump will be thrown. So first of all, in these scenarios, we cannot do anything. First thing, because when this will happen, basically this will happen when we have routines. When we have routines written in our transformation, either start routine or end routine. In the start routine or end routine, generally we write select statements. So these select statements will read data from a different provider and store in our internal tables. So due to this internal table consumption, memory consumption, there is a chance of excluding, what is this? Exceeding the given memory. So first of all, we need to identify why this select statement is trying to fetch more data from the source providers, and accordingly, if we can reduce something, we can do it. So based upon the scenario, we need to understand. But this kind of error definitely sometimes at least we come across in our production systems, memory allocation issue. So this is a dump generally. So let me check if there are any dumps related to this one. Generally seen under ST22 T code. ST22. Let me check. /n ST22. You see ABAP runtime errors. Dump is nothing but ABAP runtime error. And if I go to not today, date range, for example, 2021, copy 2022, and then error message, memory. Memory allocation. Memory allocation, you see, memory write allocation record, no, this one. Let's see. We don't know records with this one. User, any user is maybe start. I think there are no dumps, I think, within this particular, but there are memory allocation. Yeah, memory write allocation failed. This is due to internal memory management. Yeah, this is one kind of memory message. So if you see this kind of memory error messages, then it is mainly because of the memory allocation problem due to the ABAP code and all. Okay. So next memory allocation is a field symbol. Let me see what kind of it is. Offset. Yes, you see offset. So this kind of runtime errors also you may see in real time in the DTP execution. So this kind of assign offset, plus too large or too small data offset, this kind of assign offset length too large, something kind of this kind of offset kind of messages also we see in real time. So when this kind of error messages will happen is when we are using offset statement. For example, if a date which is 2022-0401, this is for example today's date. If I want to bring date from this one, date information which is 01, then how I will write? I will write statement like LV underscore date plus 6 of 2, which returns actually, for example, this data is saving under this variable, then 6 of 2 will return last two characters. Okay. For example, this string doesn't contain this much length at all. Okay, if it is having only 2022, then plus 6 of 2 will give any value here. It doesn't give any value. Then in this kind of scenarios, what will happen? Whatever we are using this offset, it is too large than the expected value, than the current value. So in this kind of scenarios, we will get this kind of error message. So this is purely an ABAP related code issue. Okay, we need to handle this kind of error messages in the ABAP code only. Okay, without getting this kind of error messages. So we cannot do anything in production if we have any statement in this way. Definitely we need to perform some code corrections and then transport them into production to handle any future related issues. And but how to fix these kind of issues, at present, for time being, how to correct this one? So we need to identify which record is causing this kind of issue and exclude those records from your DTP. Then the load will be successful. Okay, in this way, at least yeah, for time being, you can make the load success. Okay, so this is one kind of error message. Next is long runtime. Okay, so when a DTP is executing, system will it means when DTP is executing, system will create three background jobs. So let's see any DTP is there or not. For example, this DTP is there. If I go to process monitor, and if I open any one request here, a job overview, you see system created two jobs for the execution of this DTP. Okay, in general, system creates three jobs. If the data is more, system will create minimum three jobs for any DTP execution. So it means to run this DTP, system needs some background resources availability. Okay, in our last session also I discussed about background jobs availability. Okay, resources availability. So at the time of DTP execution, if the background jobs are not available to background processes are not available, then system will wait for some time till the process will get free. But if the process are not free for a very long period of time, then also your DTP will fail, resulting no background jobs available, so process are available, so it will cancel the load. Okay, so if a DTP is ideal for longer time without fetching any data or without processing anything, then you need to first check whether your DTP got created any jobs or not. A job will be created only when system processes are free. So if a job is created but still it is not processing further, then you need to check one more time processor available, further processor available or not. Okay, so you need to, by looking into those SM51 P code, you can able to identify how many background processes are free. Based on that, you can judge whether your DTP is really stuck because of processes availability or due to some logic issue on your transformation. So this is one kind of error message which you may see in the real time. And what will happen next? Yeah. So very important thing is at any point of time when transports got moved from source to into our production system, we must check after transport import completed, we must check our system consistency. It means we need to check whether all the objects are active, all the cubes are active, DSOs are active, transformations, DTPs are in active state or not. Okay, it is very important. So this is all what I can say about DTP failures. Okay, and one more failure is DTP activation. So for standard DSOs, we have activation step. So this activation step may fail sometimes due to SID issue. Okay, due to SID issue. What is SID? Let's see if I see this SID here. SID. Yeah. It is not coming here, but SID. So due to SID's not availability also sometimes DTP. What is this SID not availability means? For example, you have material master data. Okay, you have material master data, and when you're trying to activate this material, you have material master data with materials M1 and M2 and M3. Okay, and this is a first part. And now you are getting some transactional data from your source system. On your transactional data, you are getting material information M1, M2, M4. So you got four material or M4, M4 space. Let's say M4 space. But how to an M or M4 underscore, let's say M4 underscore. Okay, na? So this is the materials which you are getting from your transactional data. So when the data load happens, everything is fine. But when you try to activate your data in the DSO, then our cube, what will in cube also when data load fails. So in DSO, when you are trying to activate this transactional data, system will check your master data with your material column information with your master data. Okay, for the SIDs. So M1, M2 is already available in the master data, so system doesn't give any problem. But when it is trying to activate this record, M4 record, system will cross check this data is already available in your master data or not. Since this M4 underscore is not available in your master data, system will say SID generation not possible due to missing information. So it will consider this M4 underscore as a bad data. Okay. So in this scenario, so how to correct it? First of all, you need to check whether this data is correct or not. If you feel this data is a valid data, then you have to update your master data one more time from source system so that you will get this information to your master data. Then you can rerun your activation step. But if you feel that this data, whatever you are getting in transactional data, is wrong data, maybe it is having some junk data, means whatever this underscore is there, this underscore is a junk information on your junk information on your transactional data. Then what you need to do, you have to correct this information. You have to correct this information at a PSA level itself or in the new table by going to debugging mode. Either either one of the way you need to correct it and reload the data into transactional DSO and then activate it. It will be successful. Okay, so these kind of SID errors also we may see in real time on the DTP activation failures. Okay, and what next? So these are the most common issues we may face in real time on the DTP side. Okay, so